Welcome, Epica Church. Thank you so much for tuning in with us once again. We want to go ahead and let you guys know that we'll have more information about all the social media platforms we're sharing these episodes on. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get ready to worship. We have this amazing worship coming in, and then we'll get right into our service.
Good morning, everyone. Let's get ready to worship. This is the day that you have made. Whatever comes, I won't complain. For all my hope is in your name, and now your joy to my praise. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. Yes, I am. Come on, when I was down, you brought me out and set my feet on higher ground. So here I stand, you are my God, your faithfulness, my solid rock. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I'll not forget all the battles you have won. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. Yes, I am. We're grateful for you, Jesus. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open, heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. Oh, it is spoken over us. Yeah, I give thanks for all you have done. Of your mercy and your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. All the battles you have won, your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. Yeah. We are grateful for you, Jesus. We are grateful for you, Father. Yeah. Come on, give Jesus praise. Grateful for you, Jesus. Amen. Come on, can we just be grateful? Can we be thankful together right now in this moment for all he has done? Hey, this morning, as we continue to worship Jesus, just put your focus on him, put your attention on him, right where you're at. Run to Jesus in this moment. God, we've gathered here together, Lord, to give you our best praise, our best worship. Can we sing this together? I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go, and I see it now. I'm laying it down. I know that I need Son, for redemption, the price for my heart. I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again, again and again. Again and again and again and again. My heart has been in your sight long before my first breath. Running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in. And I know I need you now. My heart has been in your side long before my first breath. Running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in. And I know I need you now. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Again and again and again. Again and again. Again and again.
Good morning, Epic Church. We are so excited that you're tuning in with us this morning. My name is Pastor Albert Padilla. I'm the lead pastor here at Epic Church in the Central Valley city of Visalia. Happy Mother's Day to all you wonderful mothers out there. We celebrate you. We appreciate you. We could not do what we do, be who we are or where we're at if it wasn't for our mothers. So today we have a sermon, some thoughts on Mother's Day. I want to share with you this morning about the most famous mother of all. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of you have already said, my mom is the most famous mom of all times. And that is true. That is true. And you should feel that way. In the context of history and the Bible, I want to speak to you this morning on Mother's Day about the Mother of God. I want to talk about the Mother of God. I know it makes I know the moment I say that, some of you feel like super uncomfortable. If you're Protestant and Lutherans, especially if you're Lutherans, you feel really about Mother of God. We're talking about the most famous mom of all times, and that's the mother of Jesus. It's the mother of Jesus. Now, there are two positions here of conflict when we talk about Mary, the mother of God. And one of them is they're two extremes. Some people say, well, Mary was just like any other woman. No, she wasn't. Not even close. The other extreme is that people would worship Mary, and in some circles even beyond her son Christ. That's another extreme. But I want to tell you that Mary, the mother of God, the mother of Jesus, was the most famous mother of all times. No other woman will ever experience what Mary experienced. Never again. That this was one of a lifetime experience in the universe, past, present, or future. She is unique. She carried the God-man in her womb. She carried the God-man in her womb. That's how unique. When we really begin to think about how this whole narrative just comes to be, we're like, whoa, did this really happen? And so I want to share some thoughts about Mary, the archetype. She's become this archetype of what really feminism is really all about. And we look at Mary, she was very much part of the ministry of Jesus. She gave birth to him, and she was there at the foot of the cross when Jesus died. And she was there in the upper room when he sent the Spirit. I mean, she gave birth to him. She was there when he died, and she was at Pentecost when Jesus sent the Spirit. So I want to share some thoughts about Mary. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 28. Gospel of Luke 1:28 says, "The angel came to her and said, 'Greetings, you who are highly favored woman of the Lord is with you.'" Now, God, or the angel, brings this message to Mary. And this is in verse 38 in Luke 1:38. It says this, "I am the Lord's servant." This is her response. "I am the Lord's servant." Mary answered, "May your word be to me fulfilled." Then the angel left her. Now, bear in mind, this is a 14-year-old girl. What 14-year-old girl responds this way to an angel? There are all kinds of things that are happening here. She's 14 years old. She's a virgin. She's never been with a man. And the angel comes and just drops this on her. And her response, "May your word to me be fulfilled." Wow. You see, we immediately begin to see her uniqueness and perhaps even her maturity way beyond being 14 years old. And in Luke chapter 2, well, this isn't in my notes, but the first sign is the marriage feast in Canaan. That's the first sign, the marriage feast in Canaan. And they run out of wine. And Mary goes to Jesus, says, Jesus, they run out of wine. This is like super embarrassing. They probably knew the family. They were probably pretty close to the family. They got invited. She probably got invited before Jesus and the disciples got invited. So there seems to be this close relationship with the family. And this would have been like a terrible thing, an embarrassing thing to run out of wine because the marriages back in those times, they would go on for days. So it just wasn't a 2 or 3 hour event. The event would be days. So to run out of wine would be very disgraceful, very embarrassing. She goes to her son. And I love this because Mary, at this point, Jesus is older. Jesus is 30 years old, and Mary goes to him and he says, "Son, they ran out of wine." And Jesus looks at her. He says, he calls her woman, but he says, "Mom, what do you want me to do?" And she totally so Jewish. She does this totally Jewish mom thing, right? Totally and completely ignores Jesus and Jesus' response. She just ignores him, and she calls the servants and she says, "You know what? Do whatever he tells you to do." Just totally ignores, what am I supposed to do, right? I could just see Jesus looking at her and saying, "What was it that you missed? What am I supposed to do?" But she was a Jewish mom. She was a Jewish woman. And with all the Jewish characteristics about her. In the Passover feast, the Jewish families would come from all over the place to come and be at the Passover. And this particular time, it's mentioned in Luke chapter 2, verse 41. Luke chapter 2, verse 41. It says this. It says, every year Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. Now again, Jerusalem, most historians tell us that Jerusalem was about maybe 60,000 population, but when they celebrated the Passover, that it could have grown up to 500,000, 600,000. Now that's important to notice, because something happens here as they leave the Passover. They think that Jesus is with them, but he's not. And they travel a whole day. So picture this. There was probably a lot of people from that village, a lot of people from that region. They were all traveling together. The kids were playing and talking, and they were somewhere in the back, or somewhere in the front. The parents were chatting and talking. And they traveled a whole day. And then when they took a head count, at the end of the day, when they took a head count, they realized Jesus was missing. They realized Jesus was missing. And of course, as a parent, man, that's like, as a mom, that's like the worst feeling you can ever have. I remember we had a hider, our firstborn, Camille. We would go to the mall and she would hide. We would go into a store and she would hide. And we would be, Camille, where are you? She wouldn't come out. She thought it was funny or something, and she would hide. And, it doesn't take too long to start freaking out and start thinking, oh my goodness, where is she? And then finally she would come out. One time we were at a store and some of the employees and the loudspeaker called us and says, will the parents of Camille Padilla please come to this particular cashier? We have your daughter. But she would do that. But the feeling that would go through a parent, through a mom, after a whole day, can you imagine? After a whole day, and you lost Jesus. Can you imagine the conversation of Joseph and Mary, right? I mean, because if she's a typical Jewish mom, she'd probably blame Joseph. She probably looked at Joseph and said, man, this is your fault. My fault? How can it be my fault? Well, it's got to be somebody's fault, because that's kind of what we do when we get stressed out, and we always try to blame someone. But what I'm trying to say is that look at Mary. She suffered this. How many of you moms have gone through this at a park or at an event or in a store, a market, or a mall where you lose your child? And boy, you know, doing church for so many years, I can tell you that parents have left their kids in Sunday school rooms. And they've left, and especially parents that drive two cars, and some of you are listening to us right now and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You drive two cars and you assume that your children are with dad, or dad assumes the children are with mom, and you get home and they get home and you say, where's the kids? Well, what do you mean, where's the kids? And they're calling the church in panic, or they're speeding back to the church and to pick up their kids. And that happens, and it's a really a horrible feeling. And it's, you know, what's interesting is that they find Jesus, and he's at the temple, and he's asking questions to these rabbis, perhaps questions that they couldn't even answer the questions. And in the Jewish culture, this is how rabbis knew how much a disciple understood. They didn't have these exams and SATs. That's more of a Western culture educational system, where we give exams to people to figure out how much they've learned in our classes. In the Jewish community, they would know, a rabbi would know by what questions you asked, by the questions that you asked. And Jesus was there at 12 years old, and he's asking these questions, and he's blowing these rabbis away like, whoa, who is this kid? And where did he come from? He was 12 years old. It's also interesting that this is the last time we hear about Joseph. Joseph pretty much disappears from the storyline from this moment on. We don't read, we don't hear anything else about Joseph, and we don't hear anything else about Jesus. Actually, he actually goes into what is referred to as the 18 years of silence. That means that from this point on, and there's all kinds of conjections here that I could come up with, right? I kid around and I think, man, the argument was so bad between Joseph and Mary that Joseph just took off. You know, a lot of people think, oh, well, Joseph must have died. Well, we don't know that. We don't know if he died. We don't know if he left. No one really knows what happened. But Mary, at this point, if he died, she became a widow. She became a widow. And I know that there are widows listening to this message today. And it seems like Jesus vicariously connects and identifies with moms through Mary, through his mom, the relationship that Mary had with Jesus, and the tragedies that happen and the conflicts that take place. Mary is now a widow. So she knew what it meant to perhaps lose a husband. She understood that. She understood perhaps the sadness, the grief, the sorrow that one goes through when you lose a husband. And she was 26 years old. That's really young to be a widow. It's really young. And I know there's probably women out there, young women out there that have experienced this. And I just want you to know that God has this. God has you. God's there. God's there for you, with you. So if she becomes a widow at 26, what does that mean? That means that from this time forward, she's a single mom. She's a single mom. So again, she knows what it is to raise a child without a father. She realizes that, she experiences that, just like a lot of moms do. And, we hear all these disturbing statistics about single parents and the higher probabilities of the kids getting in trouble and going to jail and getting into drugs. And that probably freaks moms out. I mean, when you hear preachers throw out these statistics, it's very troubling. But there are so many great men and women, starting with Jesus, that was raised by a mom, that was raised by a single mom. So many great men, so many great women that were raised. And so often in our attempt to try to understand a particular crisis in our culture, we forget about all these other people, men and women that were raised. And we focus on the negative. We focus on, and those that did get into drugs, and those that did go to jail, and those that did get pregnant. And we focus on the negative, when in reality, Jesus, I'll tell you right now, Jesus is one of the most successful and famous people that ever lived in the world, and he was raised by a single mom. Are you listening, moms? Are you listening, single moms, to me today on Mother's Day? Because I believe that God is encouraging you, and God is speaking to you this morning. She was a single mom. Another thing that Mary would struggle with, and I think a lot of women struggle, a lot of people struggle with this. She would struggle with the stigma that nothing good can come out of Nazareth. She would struggle with that. And so often, right, it's because we grow up in a trailer park, or we grow up in the inner city, we grow up in communities that maybe are drug and gang infested, and people look at us and say, oh man, nothing good can come out of this neighborhood. Nothing good can come out of this region. And Mary had to struggle with that stigma. But wow. Just wow. Mary, the mother of God that gives birth to Yeshua HaMashiach, that gives birth to Jesus, God incarnate. In John chapter 1, verse 46, can anything good come from there? Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. Come and see, said Philip. I don't know about that, but I want you to come over here and I want you to check this out, because maybe your assumptions are wrong. Powerful. Now, my next point is what mothers, especially mothers that have been raised up, that is raising their kids in church, and here in Mark chapter 2, verses 25 and 28, Jesus confronts. Jesus gets into an argument with church leadership. I mean, if you're a mom that are raising your kids up in church, oh man, this is not what you want to see. This is not what you want to hear. You don't want your kids confronting the leadership, right? And can you imagine how she felt or what she was thinking? I mean, she was a mom. She was a mom, and she was walking with Jesus, and now he's arguing. He's confronting the church leadership, the synagogue people. In Mark chapter 2, verse 25 and 28, he answered, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of?" I mean, this is like sarcasm at its highest, right? He's talking to the Jewish, to the Pharisees and perhaps the Sadducees that have memorized the Torah. They have memorized the Old Testament, and he just it's like you didn't just say that to these men. And then he says, in the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat, and he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath. I mean, he's just like probably over their head at this point, right? He not only gets into this debate and this argument with the religious community, but he throws some things out there that they're probably thinking, what does he mean by that? Then her son, Mary's son, is accused of getting his power from the devil. I mean, does that hurt a mom? Does that hurt a parent? Wouldn't that get you angry if someone comes up and says, you know what, your son gets his power from Beelzebub. Your son gets his power from the devil. And it's one of those things. And I hear moms say this all the time. You can call me names all you want, but don't mess with my kids, because there's this maternal instinct there that will just come up and confront in these situations and in these areas, because moms are moms, and moms are going to protect their kids even when they're older. Even when they're older. Oh, you moms might hover over your kids that much more when they're children. But even when they're older, you're not going to stand. You're not going to tolerate people speaking against your kids. Why? Because that's a mother instinct in us and you. In Mark chapter 3, verse 22, it says this. It says, but the teachers of religious law who had arrived from Jerusalem said, he's possessed by Satan, the prince of demons. Wow. And then Jesus, he's also accused of, the son of Mary is accused of breaking the law. Breaking the tradition, their tradition and the law. He's accused of breaking the law. And, moms process that differently. Moms will go, while a dad can say, well, that's his issue. He's got to deal with that. Moms are totally different, right? Mom will go out there and says, well, I'm going to get him a lawyer. We're going to lawyer him. Mom will go out there and sell everything she can and hire an attorney or something, because that's what moms do. But again, to suffer the emotional turmoil and that comes when these kinds of accusations take place against your children. Number 7, the son of Mary loses his temper. In church, the son of Mary loses his temper in church. Bible says that he goes in there and he overthrows the tables of the money changers where they were selling doves, and he's ticked off. I mean, if you've raised your kids in church, this is like a nightmare for moms, for Christian moms. To hear your child raise his voice, certainly at this stage and at his age, against a lot older religious leaders of the temple. And this isn't just frightening. This is terrible. But he says, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you're making it a den of thieves. He calls them thieves. I would have loved to see the face of Mary when Jesus calls the leaders of the synagogue thieves. Oh man, she probably had this look on her face thinking, you really did it this time, Jesus. Then of course we know that in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus is falsely accused. He's falsely accused. There's you see this. And what do parents do? You believe your children. That's what parents do. Parents believe their children. And certainly if your child is Jesus, you're going to believe Jesus. And you're going to know that these accusations that they're throwing against him have all been falsified. You're going to know that. But just knowing that is not going to take away the hurt and the pain. And maybe even the confusion. So the confusion, why are they treating my son this way? Why are they lying about him? And only moms can feel that. Only moms can experience that. And then after he's falsely accused, he's betrayed. He's betrayed. See, I don't know this. There's no way of knowing this, so this is just me speculating that Mary, the Jewish mom, and the moms that you and I know, the moms that you've had, I think Mary would have said, I told you so, Jesus. I never trusted him from the beginning. Just the way, that look in his eye, I never trusted Judas. I told you needed to be careful of who you chose to be, because that's what moms do. And moms, and so often moms are right. How many times did our moms tell us, show me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. And, certainly my mom was always able to tell, who was good influence or who was a bad influence, bless her heart. And now in looking back, she understands that I was the bad influence, influencing everyone else to do bad. But there was that time where she was just trying to protect me, and she thought all my friends were influencing me in a negative way. Moms have this intuition of being able to know things that, God just created them that way. And of course, as a result of that, Jesus dies at 33. Mary knows, just to recap really quick, Mary knows what it felt like to be pregnant out of wedlock at 14. To be afraid of the ridicule, the rejection, the abandonment. She knew that. Mary, at the end, knew what it was to lose a son. One of the most unnatural things to happen to a parent is to lose a child. One of the most painful things for a parent is to lose a child. And not just to lose a child, but to lose a child and to be a witness of the atrocities that were inflicted upon him. And the way that he died, he was crucified on a cross. And in her confusion, wondering what happened, how did God allow this to happen? And so often moms ask the question, why me? Why now? And Mary understood the pain and the anguish of losing a child. Moms, I want you to know that Jesus knows everything that you have ever experienced. He knows it. And he's always been there for you. Even when you didn't know that he was there. Even when you didn't feel that he was there, Mom. He's been there for you. His grace has always been sufficient. You may have not always known that, but his grace has always been sufficient. You have been given a task, moms. You have been given a task. You send out your children. Your children are like arrows shot into the future with a message to generations that haven't even been born yet. Moms, what is the message that your children are taking into the future? What is the message that you have instilled in them? Perhaps to love God, to love their neighbor as themselves. That's a powerful message because that gives them the ability to change a culture, change a community, and change the world. I want to pray. I want to pray for moms that are watching right now. And you made a mistake when you were a child, when you were young. Maybe you ended up getting pregnant out of wedlock. You weren't alone. You weren't the first one. And maybe you've seen your children get accused and some falsely accused, and maybe some not falsely accused, but you've experienced the pain and the anguish of those accusations. Maybe, Mom, you're listening to this today, and you've lost a son. You've lost a daughter. Well, yeah, God is there with you. Jesus is there for you. I want to pray with you. And I want to believe that God will speak to you on this Mother's Day to tell you how valuable and how precious you really are. We could not do what we do, be where we're at, if it wasn't for our moms. I want to pray with you. Father in heaven, I pray for each and every mother that is listening to this broadcast right now. I pray, Father, that you will just manifest your grace, your mercy, that you will continue to empower them to be the women that you've called them to be. That you will heal the pain and the hurt that comes from situations and events and circumstances in life that sometimes are even too painful to talk about. I pray for healing and wholeness and strength and vitality. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Happy Mother's Day.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching us this week. Did you know that we have our own website? You can visit us anytime at epicachurch.com. Also, drop by and visit our other social media outlets, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Every time you drop by, it gives us another opportunity to connect with our viewers. All right, see you next week.